Thanks for tuning in to Artificially Informed,
where we break down the world's news from every angle.
from the left, the right, and straight from the algorithm.
Thanks for listening.
How do you even begin to keep up with just the sheer volume of news? I mean, the groundbreaking discoveries, the shifting politics, all the incredible human stories unfolding like every single day around the planet.
It's a real challenge, isn't it? The pace, the quantity. It can feel like trying to drink from a fire hose sometimes.
Yeah.
Seriously overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly. And that is precisely why we're here. Welcome to the deep dive. We take your stack of sources, the articles, the research, maybe your own notes, and we just meticulously cut through all that noise.
Right.
Our mission, always, is to pull out those vital nuggets of knowledge, those surprising facts, and those genuine aha
Moments that really click.
Yeah. The ones that leave you truly well-informed, but importantly, without ever feeling totally swamped by it all.
And we do that by trying to look beyond just the headlines, connecting things that might seem separate at first glance.
Right.
Try to find the why and the how, uncovering maybe deeper patterns and what it all means for our global community, helping you see that bigger picture.
Okay, so today we are embarking on a really expansive journey. We're stretching from the depths of space
Way out there.
to the intricate dance of global diplomacy, from the absolute cutting edge of technology right down to the very real impacts of our changing climate.
It's a wide range.
It really is. We've got a fascinating array of material from you this time. We're covering everything from black holes to bunker busters, political pardons, to new iPhone launches, and even some surprising theories about where life itself might have come from.
Wow.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's a truly wild ride we're about to take, covering so much ground, it feels like we're mapping the entire world's knowledge in one go.
It does. And what's fascinating here as we dig in is how seemingly disparate events often connect, They reveal deeper patterns and implications for all of us. We'll be looking beyond the headlines, trying to understand the why and how of these stories and what they really mean. #1. Unlocking the cosmos and life's origins.
All right, let's start by looking way, way up to the cosmos. Our first stop is a critical resupply mission heading to the International Space Station, the ISS.
Right, essential stuff.
Yeah. NASA, that's the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, is launching its Northrop Grumman Commercial Resupply Services 23 mission, CRS-23, and it's carrying over 11,000 pounds of science experiments and essential supplies.
That's a truly impressive amount of cargo. And this mission, it's actually quite significant.
How so?
Well, it marks the inaugural flight of the new, larger and much more capable Cygnus XL spacecraft.
Ah, the XL model.
Exactly. And this Cygnus XL, it'll launch aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida.
Okay, so that really showcases the increasing role of these commercial partners like SpaceX and Northrop Grumman in space logistics.
Precisely. That's a big shift.
11,000 pounds. That's like loading up a small car with groceries and really delicate lab gear and then whoosh, sending it into orbit.
It's a massive undertaking.
And it's also quite moving that this specific Cygnus XL spacecraft is named in honor of astronaut William McCool.
Yes, who tragically died during the Space Shuttle Columbia mission, STS-107.
Such a powerful and poignant tribute. It really hits home.
It certainly is. And that blend of, cutting-edge engineering with such a deeply human dedication and sacrifice.
Yeah.
It truly underscores the spirit of space exploration.
Yeah.
So when the spacecraft arrives, the ISS astronauts will use the Canadarm2 robotic arm.
The big arm, yeah.
To capture it, install it, and then start unloading all that precious cargo.
And that cargo includes critical hardware, right?
Sure.
Yes. Spare parts.
Yeah, absolutely essential stuff for maintaining the ISS's complex systems. Think life support, environmental monitoring, all that.
Wow.
Ultimately, this mission is vital, not just for the resupply itself, but for sustaining that continuous scientific research environment on board the ISS.
Which benefits us down here.
Which ultimately benefits all of us here on Earth, from developing new materials to medical breakthroughs. The research up there is invaluable. And this initiative, it's a prime example of NASA's broader strategy, this growing collaboration with commercial partners.
Right, that trend we're seeing.
Yeah, it's a trend that's rapidly reshaping the future of space travel and research, making it hopefully more accessible and efficient in the long run.
Okay, so from the practicalities of getting stuff to space, let's pivot to something truly mind-bending.
Right.
Black holes. We're seeing these groundbreaking advancements in gravitational wave astronomy
Yes.
that have significantly enhanced our understanding, and it looks like they're validating some of the biggest names in science.
You're absolutely right. These advancements are confirming key theories from Albert Einstein
Wow.
and Stephen Hawking. It's really quite remarkable. About a decade after that initial groundbreaking detection of gravitational waves.
Which was huge news itself.
Huge news. Now, new instruments like LIGO, that's the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, and the Virgo detector in Europe, they've managed to capture these distinctive ringing signals.
Bringing signals from black hole.
Exactly, both before and after black hole mergers.
So Einstein and Hawking were right. I mean, it's incredible to think we're now actually listening to the universe in this profound new way, picking up echoes from black holes colliding billions of light years away. It's, wow, puts things in perspective. My mind is officially blown.
It really is a paradigm shift in how we observe the cosmos. Before this, we primarily relied on electromagnetic radiation, visible light, X-rays, radio waves.
The usual stuff.
The usual toolkit. Now, gravitational wave astronomy has opened an entirely new frontier. It allows us to perceive the universe through these ripples in space-time itself.
Ripples in space-time.
Yeah, these waves are produced by the acceleration of incredibly massive objects like two black holes spiraling into each other and merging.
Okay.
And the detection of these ringing signals is monumental because it confirms predictions from Einstein's theory of general relativity.
Which describes gravity as space-time curvature.
Exactly. And it also strongly supports Hawking's theories on black hole thermodynamics and quantum mechanics, how black holes might radiate energy and eventually, perhaps, evaporate.
So it connects Einstein and Hawking's work.
It connects them in these extreme environments, yes. And these findings aren't just academic exercises. They provide unprecedented insight into the dynamics of space-time, the fundamental nature of our universe during these incredibly extreme cosmic events.
So what's next? More listening.
More listening, definitely. As LIGO and Virgo continue their operations, improve their sensitivity, we anticipate even more findings. We'll deepen our understanding of gravity's role in forming massive structures, influence fields from cosmology to fundamental physics, essentially rewriting parts of our cosmic textbooks as we go.
Amazing. Okay, from the incredibly large, the cosmic scale, let's zoom right down to the very, very small, maybe even the very beginning.
Okay.
Let's shift our gaze to the origins of life itself with this increasingly popular idea called the panspermia hypothesis.
Panspermia. Yes, the theory proposes that life exists, or at least its precursors, throughout the universe. And it can be distributed from one celestial body to another by things like space dust, meteoroids, asteroids, comets, even chunks of planets knocked off by impacts.
Okay.
This concept has been gaining significant traction among scientists and astrobiologists. It suggests that life on Earth might not actually have originated here.
So wait, we might all be Martians. Slight chuckle, or maybe from even further out in the galaxy.
Slight chuckle.
That's a truly cosmic perspective on our own existence. It's kind of humbling.
Slight chuckle.
Yeah.
In a way, yes, it absolutely pushes us to think beyond a solely Earth-centric origin story. Proponents argue that the basic building blocks of life, maybe amino acids or perhaps even simple microbial life forms,
Like hardy little space bugs.
like extremely hardy microbes, potentially, yes, they could have been transported to a young Earth on these celestial bodies, effectively seeding life on our planet.
Is there evidence for this?
There's growing circumstantial evidence. We've seen recent research detecting complex organic molecules, fundamental chemical components needed for life, as we know it, inside comets and meteorites.
Okay, that's compelling.
It lends support to the idea that these ingredients are widespread. Scientists are now actively exploring the possibility that life could have hitched a ride to Earth from somewhere like Mars.
Which we know had water in the past.
Exactly. Perhaps after a massive cosmic impact, ejected Martian rocks carrying microbes into space. Or maybe even from much further afield, traversing vast interstellar distances over millions of years.
But it doesn't solve the ultimate origin question, right?
That's the key point. Panspermia offers a plausible mechanism for the transport of life, but it still leaves us with that profound mystery. How did that ultimate first spark of life originate somewhere else in the universe?
Right, it just pushes the problem further away.
It pushes the problem further back, or further out, yes. But regardless, this theory has profound implications for how we think about life's potential existence elsewhere. It significantly influences the search for life on other planets, like Mars, and especially those icy moons.
Europa and Enceladus.
Europa and Enceladus, yes. With their tantalizing subsurface oceans, they become even more compelling targets for future astrobiological missions, if life can indeed travel between worlds.
Okay, so as we keep looking outwards, NASA isn't just sending missions now. They're actively preparing the next generation of explorers and the tech they'll need for future trips to the Moon and Mars.
Precisely. They're laying the groundwork very deliberately. NASA is undertaking several key initiatives. For instance, NASA's Langley Research Center has formed a partnership with Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University.
Okay, the big aerospace university.
Exactly, through something called a Space Act Agreement. The goal here is to significantly enhance aerospace research, education, and critically workforce development for the future.
So training the next generation.
Training them and developing new tools. A standout project from this collaboration involved developing an augmented reality, or AR.
AR, like putting on goggles.
Yeah, using AR. This tool, using NASA's advanced sensor technology, aims to vastly improve visualization and training for those incredibly complex entry, descent, and landing systems. EDL, as they call it.
The scary part of landing on another planet.
The 7 minutes of terror, yeah, for Moon and Mars missions.
So basically, high-tech virtual training sims to prepare astronauts for future moonwalks and Martian landings. That sounds almost like a really advanced video game, but with, enormous stakes.
It is, but with absolutely critical accuracy.
Yeah.
And beyond just virtual training, NASA is also conducting physical moonwalk simulations underwater.
Right, the Neutral Buoyancy Lab.
At the NASA Ames Research Center, yeah. These underwater environments are crucial for mimicking reduced gravity conditions, letting astronauts practice movement and rigorously test equipment functionality before they actually go on missions.
Makes sense.
They also use various other testing facilities like the Ames Vertical Gun Range and the Electric Arc Shock Tube for even more specialized training and stress testing equipment under extreme conditions.
Wow, they really put things through the ringer.
They have to. And furthermore, there's the NASA Space Technology Graduate Research Opportunities Program, NSGGRO.
Catchy name.
Slick chuckle. It funds projects run by graduate students focusing on fundamental challenges for long-duration deep space missions.
Like what sort of challenges?
Things like astronaut safety, developing more efficient energy systems for prolonged operations far from Earth, and creating autonomous navigation systems so spacecraft can find their way in vast, uncharted space without constant guidance from home.
Right, self-driving spaceships almost.
In a sense, these partnerships, these innovative training methods, they're absolutely essential for building both the foundational knowledge and the human capital, the skilled people required for sustained deep space exploration. That AR tool you mentioned could especially revolutionize astronaut training by providing hyper-realistic simulations, preparing crews for scenarios they might encounter millions of miles away.
Preparing for the unexpected.
Exactly. All these collective efforts are meticulously designed to optimize the safety and performance of future crewed missions into deep space. It's about establishing a robust foundation for humanity's eventual sustainable presence on Mars. It reflects a truly long-term vision for our future beyond Earth. Take two, the evolving tech landscape.
Okay, shifting from the final frontier to something a little closer to home, maybe even in your pocket. Let's delve into the ever-evolving tech landscape.
Okay.
Starting with Apple's latest innovations, the recent iPhone 17 event unveiled a whole new lineup, including something that caught a lot of people by surprise, the new iPhone Air.
Indeed. Alongside an updated Apple Watch 11 and the AirPods Pro 3, the event showcased a suite of innovative features, improved 5G capabilities, and some pretty enticing trade-in offers from major carriers like Verizon.
iPhone Air, an affordable Apple phone. Chuckle. That almost sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it, given their usual pricing strategy? But it's definitely interesting to see them try to hit a wider market, especially when some of those high-end flagship phones are creeping towards that, $2,000 mark, which is just astronomical.
Your reaction is pretty common. Apple's pricing strategy has historically set a very high bar, often influencing how consumers perceive value across the entire smartphone market.
Right, they set the benchmark.
They do. The iPhone Air seems clearly designed to appeal to a broader audience, aiming to offer a more accessible price point while still packing in a good set of features. It's a strategic move amidst those rising prices you mentioned.
Trying to keep people in the Apple ecosystem.
Exactly. This launch is undoubtedly an effort to reinvigorate excitement in the smartphone market and, crucially for them, maintain Apple's leadership position against some pretty fierce global competition, especially from Android manufacturers.
Makes sense.
The emphasis on enhanced 5G capabilities and those attractive trade-in incentives reflects the company's dual focus. They're pushing technological advancement, but also trying maybe to broaden market accessibility.
But are there any catches?
Well, it's worth noting that the iPhone Air is reportedly facing some operational challenges due to limited support in the crucial Chinese market.
Yeah, okay.
Which just highlights the inherent complexities and, frankly, the geopolitical nuances of rolling out global tech products these days. It's not just about the tech itself.
Right. Okay, beyond consumer gadgets, technology is infiltrating even the most traditional and venerable fields. How about artificial intelligence, AI? Making its way into global arbitration.
Absolutely. The China Arbitration Summit 2025, scheduled for September 17th in Beijing, is set to focus explicitly on navigating the future of international arbitration in the digital intelligence era.
Wow, that title says it all.
It really does. It emphasizes the deep integration of artificial intelligence and other advanced digital technologies into these traditionally very human-driven arbitration processes.
AI and arbitration. So are we talking about like robot judges deciding international disputes? Chuckle. It's truly fascinating how quickly AI is impacting fields like law, things you'd think were immune.
Chuckle. Not quite robot judges just yet, but certainly leveraging AI to enhance the entire arbitration process significantly.
Oh, so?
Well, this summit is co-organized by CITAC. That's the China International Economic and Trade Arbitration Commission. And UN-CITREL, the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law.
Okay, so major international bodies are involved.
Yes, signaling a significant effort to enhance international legal cooperation in this area. Experts at the summit will discuss how AI can be used to improve efficiency, think case management, document analysis.
Sifting through mountains of evidence.
Exactly. Also, maintaining procedural fairness and upholding the integrity of arbitration practices, which is particularly relevant as the legal landscape rapidly evolves in this digital age.
But there must be concerns too, right?
Oh, absolutely. This development raises really important questions about the future of legal systems globally. While AI offers tremendous potential for efficiency, predictive analytics, data analysis, and handling complex cases, it also introduces significant challenges.
Such as?
Things like ensuring ethical implementation, avoiding bias in algorithms, for example, safeguarding highly sensitive data privacy, and critically, maintaining meaningful human oversight in legal decisions that can have huge impacts on lives and businesses.
Yeah, you don't want an algorithm making the final call on a billion-dollar dispute without a human check.
Precisely. The summit also aims to facilitate deeper legal exchanges and foster collaborative efforts, especially between China and Latin America. The ultimate goal is creating a more open, fair, and sustainable international dispute resolution mechanism, hopefully enhanced by technology.
And they're making it accessible.
Yes. The hybrid nature of the event, offering simultaneous interpretation in Chinese and English, underscores a broad international effort to really shape the future landscape of global arbitration through tech advancement and cooperation.
Okay, and moving from legal tech to the technology that keeps us flying safely and efficiently, let's talk about the unsung heroes of engineering, specifically something called the Drag Prediction Workshop.
Ah, the DPW. Yes, the Drag Prediction Workshop series is a long-standing international initiative with a really crucial goal.
Which is?
To enhance transonic aerodynamic predictions. Basically, improving the computer methods and tools we use to accurately assess aircraft performance, especially drag.
Drag being the resistance the plane feels moving through the air.
Exactly. Minimizing drag is key to fuel efficiency and performance. The upcoming DPW-8 continues this vital collaborative effort.
It sounds like really fundamental work, essential for modern aviation, but probably doesn't get much fanfare outside the engineering community.
You're absolutely right. It's foundational work that quietly underpins so much of what we take for granted when we fly. The workshop actually has a rich history, tracing back to 2001.
Wow, long running.
Very. And it brings together numerous stakeholders from across the global aerospace community, academia, industry giants, government research labs.
A real collaboration.
A true international collaboration. Its efforts have led to significant advancements over the years, including the creation of the NASA-Boeing Common Research Model.
What's that?
It's a standardized, open-access digital aircraft geometry. It's now widely used around the world for research and testing computational fluid dynamics codes. Basically, a common benchmark everyone can use.
So everyone's testing against the same virtual plane.
Precisely. NASA's long-standing involvement in this series solidifies its commitment to advancing aerospace tech and setting global research standards. The critical insight here is how this fundamental research in aerodynamics, like improving drag prediction, has direct and incredibly significant impacts.
How so?
Better drag prediction means better designs, leading to improved fuel efficiency, potentially higher speeds, and even reducing the environmental footprint of modern aircraft.
So it makes planes greener and cheaper to operate.
In the long run, yes. These workshops are a cornerstone for international collaboration in aerospace engineering. They drive innovation that benefits both commercial airlines and defense aviation, ultimately making air travel safer, more efficient, and more sustainable for everyone. #3. Global tensions and diplomatic maneuvers.
All right, let's pivot now to the complex and often pretty unpredictable world of global diplomacy. International relations, the sands are always shifting there.
They certainly are.
And we've seen some truly interesting and frankly rapid developments recently between the United States and Belarus.
Indeed. The United States, under President Donald Trump, has notably lifted sanctions on Belarus's national airline, Belavia.
Okay, that's a big move. Weren't those sanctions fairly recent?
They were imposed in 2023 by the Biden administration, yes, largely in response to alleged election fraud in Belarus and the country's support for Russia's conflict in Ukraine.
Right, so lifting them is significant.
Very significant. This move was announced by Trump envoy John Kolal during a visit to Minsk, the capital of Belarus, and it directly follows the release by Belarus of 52 political prisoners.
Ah, okay. So there's a clear quid pro quo element here.
It certainly appears that way. Among those released were a European Union diplomat and a prominent opposition leader.
Wow. So from sanctions to prisoner releases, and I hear there's even talk of potentially reopening the U.S. embassy in Minsk.
That discussion is ongoing, yes.
That's a pretty rapid shift in diplomatic approach. I mean, it certainly looks like a substantial diplomatic win for President Trump on the global stage. Gets headlines.
It's definitely a complex and highly scrutinized maneuver. If we connect this to the broader picture, this situation vividly highlights that intricate interplay of foreign policy, human rights concerns, and raw geopolitical leverage.
So how did this unfold?
Well, as we said, sanctions on Belavia were imposed due to election fraud allegations and Belarus's involvement in the Ukraine conflict. The recent lifting marks a clear step toward potentially normalizing U.S.-Belarus relations. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has publicly praised Trump's perceived peacemaking efforts and signaled a desire for more positive engagement.
And the prisoner release? Was that directly linked to Trump?
The release of political prisoners, notably including figures like Nikolai Statkovich, who was jailed for organizing those 2020 protests against alleged election fraud, was influenced by Trump's public calls for their release. Since July 2024, Belarus has actually pardoned nearly 300 individuals in total.
Okay, nearly 300. That's quite a few.
It is. And as you mentioned, discussions about potentially reopening the U.S. Embassy in Minsk are actively ongoing. Now, if we try to look at this from different political perspectives neutrally.
Yeah. How is this being viewed?
From a right-leaning viewpoint, this could absolutely be hailed as effective direct diplomacy by President Trump. A transactional approach, maybe, but one that achieved concrete outcomes. Prisoner releases, a degree of de-escalation things previous administrations struggled with, it shows results.
Okay.
Conversely, from a left-leaning perspective, while the release of political prisoners is undoubtedly a positive humanitarian outcome, nobody disputes that. The lifting of sanctions and this direct engagement with an authoritarian leader like Lukashenko could be viewed very differently.
Yeah.
It might be seen as legitimizing an undemocratic regime.
So potentially undermining democratic values for short-term gain.
That's the argument, yes, that it might undermine long-term democratic principles, despite the immediate humanitarian benefit. And this really raises an important question for everyone, regardless of political leaning. What are the long-term implications of these kinds of transactional diplomatic approaches?
Does pragmatism trump principle, essentially?
Does prioritizing immediate results over, say, consistent adherence to democratic values create a sustainable or predictable foreign policy? It's a tough question. And all of this, of course, unfolds against that backdrop of significant existing Western sanctions imposed in response to Belarus's political repression and its continued support for Russia in the Ukraine conflict.
Right. And speaking of Russia and Belarus, they've also just kicked off their joint military exercises, Zapad 2025, I believe.
That's correct.
And this is clearly raising alarms across the region, especially in the Baltics.
Absolutely. These drills, which ran from September 12th to 16th, involved tens of thousands of troops. And importantly, they showcased advanced military technology, including missile systems capable of carrying nuclear warheads.
Okay, nuclear-capable missiles and exercises near NATO borders. That's tense.
Extremely tense. Unsurprisingly, it triggered significant concern, particularly in Baltic states like Lithuania, which borders Belarus.
Yeah, talk about walking a tightrope. These drills, especially coming just days after that reported drone incident near Poland, it sounds incredibly tense. I can only imagine the anxiety for people living near that border. It must feel like history could repeat itself.
The anxiety is palpable, and for good reason. Lithuania, a member of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is actively heightening its national security measures,
What are they doing?
increasing border patrols, putting their military on higher readiness. There are very real fears of potential incursions or maybe hybrid attacks.
Hybrid attacks, like what?
Things like weaponizing migrant flows, creating border crises, or using drone provocations, cyber attacks, things short of conventional warfare but designed to destabilize.
Right, gray zone tactics.
Exactly. And these drills, as you said, occurred just days after Poland, another NATO member, reported Russian drones violating its airspace. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk labeled that an unprecedented provocation.
But didn't President Trump downplay that?
He did suggest at the time that the drone incident could have been a mistake, which certainly created some friction and unease within the NATO alliance.
I bet. How did NATO respond overall?
NATO allies have largely accused Russia of orchestrating deliberate drone incursions, possibly to test their defensive readiness and NATO's political cohesion. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte expressed concerns about the situation, but also publicly questioned the definitive validity of Poland's claims about the drone's origin or intent, which further complicated the unified response.
So, not a perfectly unified front there.
Not entirely clear-cut, no. In response to all these perceived threats, Lithuania plans to significantly increase its military budget, aiming for over 5% of its GDP by 2026. That's a huge increase.
Wow, 5% is massive.
It reflects a severe heightening of their security posture. You hear reports of local civilians in the Baltic region openly expressing deep anxiety, drawing parallels to past invasions and historical subjugation under Moscow.
Understandable.
While cooperation with NATO forces provides some solace in deterrence, immediate fears of a full-scale invasion are somewhat tempered by analysts, who suggest Russia's military focus is currently very much divided by its ongoing, costly engagements in Ukraine.
Right, they might not have the capacity right now.
That's the assessment of many, yes. But this whole situation raises that important question again about Russia's long-term strategic intentions and its sustained efforts to, perhaps, undermine NATO's credibility and unity.
How do different sides see these drills?
Well, from a right-leaning perspective, particularly from some nationalist viewpoints maybe closer to Russia's position, these drills might be framed as a justified response to NATO's eastward expansion, a necessary demonstration of military might in what Russia considers its legitimate sphere of influence, a show of strength to protect its borders.
Okay.
Conversely, from a left-leaning perspective, and certainly from the perspective of NATO members in the region, these actions are overwhelmingly viewed as aggressive, destabilizing provocations. They heighten the risk of miscalculation and further conflict, especially against the volatile backdrop of the war in Ukraine.
And Poland took further action.
Yes, in a significant diplomatic move, Poland invoked Article 4 of NATO's treaty.
What does Article 4 do?
It allows any member to request security consultations when they feel their territorial integrity, political independence, or security is threatened. Poland also requested an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council.
Okay, so they're escalating diplomatically.
They are, underscoring the incredibly delicate balance of power and the profound regional instability currently at play in Eastern Europe.
These military exercises and drone incidents also naturally lead us to consider the evolving ethics of modern warfare, particularly with the widespread use of drones now.
Yes.
We've seen some very contrasting and frankly pretty unsettling reports emerging from the Ukraine conflict regarding how drones are being operated.
Indeed. Recent footage, often shared online from the conflict zone, has highlighted strikingly contrasting behaviors of drone operators on both sides.
What kind of contrast?
Well, reports suggest, and some footage appears to show, Russian FPV, that's first-person view drone operators, making deliberate efforts not to strike civilian vehicles, sometimes even aborting attacks upon recognition of civilians.
Really? Actively avoiding civilians?
That's what some reports and videos claim. Meanwhile, Ukrainian drone operators have been accused, in some instances documented by Russian sources, of deliberately targeting civilian cars inside Russian territories.
Wow. The idea of a drone operator, like greeting a civilian car in a war zone, which I think was reported, that feels almost surreal, like something out of a dark comedy.
It is surreal.
It's such a stark contrast to the disturbing reports of civilian vehicles being deliberately targeted. It really makes you question the rules of engagement, or maybe the lack thereof, in this kind of warfare.
It is surreal, and it highlights a new dimension of warfare ethics. The Russian footage, for example, has shown operators halting attacks on what appear to be civilian vehicles. There was one widely circulated instance of an operator tilting the drone in what looked like a gesture of greeting to a civilian driver below.
Why would they do that? Is it the tech?
This ability to better distinguish targets and abort missions is often attributed by analysts to more advanced fiber optic cable-guided drones.
Fiber optic drones, how do they work?
They trail a thin fiber optic cable back to the operator, which allows for a much higher quality, unjammable video feed and more precise control compared to traditional radio-controlled drones. This gives the operator better situational awareness and the ability to make last-second decisions, like aborting an attack.
Okay, so better tech allows for more ethical choices, potentially.
Potentially. But conversely, those reports of Ukrainian drone attacks allegedly targeting civilian cars in Russian territories raise serious concerns about potentially organized targeting of emergency and civilian vehicles, which would blur critical lines in armed conflict under international law.
So what's the bigger picture here, ethically?
What's truly fascinating, if we look at the broader implications, is the rapidly evolving ethics of drone warfare itself. The technological capability of these advanced drones, like the fiber optic guided ones, to achieve such precision and potentially distinguish non-combatants, introduces a whole new dimension to accountability. It forces a reevaluation of international norms.
Right.
This raises an important question about adherence to international humanitarian law and, crucially, the accurate, verifiable documentation of such incidents. Both sides, naturally, often accuse the other of violations.
Propaganda is part of war.
Absolutely. And obtaining accurate, unbiased information in active conflict zones remains an immense challenge. There's also a broader context complicating targeting decisions, the increased presence of unmarked civilian vehicles in combat zones.
Why is that happening?
Often because soldiers on both sides might use them for logistics or transport due to heavy losses in dedicated military vehicles. This makes it harder for drone operators, even those trying to follow the rules, to distinguish between legitimate military targets and civilians. It's a murky reality.
Yeah, a very difficult situation for everyone involved. Okay, let's shift focus slightly. The complexities of global tensions certainly extend to the Middle East and beyond. The United States seems to be navigating some incredibly challenging foreign policy waters there. It feels like a constant high-stakes balancing act.
That's a very apt description. We've seen several significant and interconnected developments recently. First, and perhaps most strikingly, the United Nations Security Council, with the full backing of the United States, unanimously condemned Israel's airstrike on a Hamas political office in Doha, Qatar.
In Qatar, not Gaza.
In Doha, Qatar, yes. This attack targeted Hamas leaders who were apparently gathered there to discuss a peace deal that had been proposed by President Trump.
Wow, so an attack during peace talks hosted by Qatar.
Exactly. While 5 Hamas leaders were reportedly killed, the top leadership survived. Tragically, a Qatari security officer was also killed in the strike.
And the U.S. condemned it. That's huge.
It is. The United States, traditionally Israel's staunchest ally, especially at the UN, described these bombings as counterproductive. And significantly, reports suggest the U.S. was not notified by Israel beforehand.
The U.S. joining a UN condemnation against Israel, that is truly a monumental shift. That sends a massive diplomatic signal, almost unprecedented in recent history, right?
It absolutely is. This marks a notable departure from the long-standing U.S. tradition of often using its veto power to block criticisms against Israel at the UN Security Council.
So what does it signal?
It indicates, potentially, a reassessment of U.S. foreign policy in the region, maybe a shift in priorities under the Trump administration, and it certainly highlights underlying tensions within the U.S.-Israel relationship itself.
How did Qatar react?
Qatar's Prime Minister, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al Thani, whose country was hosting those peace talks, strongly condemned the attack. He called it an affront to Qatar's peace efforts and a blatant breach of its sovereignty. He also warned that Israel's actions showed, in his view, no concern for the Israeli hostages still being held in Gaza.
And Israel's response?
Israel's UN envoy defended the strikes as necessary actions against terrorism, arguing they were targeting legitimate military objectives associated with Hamas.
So a clash of narratives.
A stark clash. This attack, coming right in the middle of delicate peace negotiations, obviously exacerbated already extreme volatility in the region. Reports indicate it led to the displacement of over 200,000 additional people within Gaza shortly afterwards.
And complicating things even further, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is also making moves on the ground that could further inflame regional tensions, correct?
Yes, concurrently, he announced plans for a significant new settlement expansion in the occupied West Bank.
Where specifically?
It's known as the E1 project. It's strategically located and estimated to require up to $1 billion in investment.
E1, that rings a bell as being particularly controversial.
Extremely controversial. This announcement comes amidst already sky-high tensions and risks further alienating Israel from its Western allies, many of whom are reportedly considering recognizing a Palestinian state at the upcoming UN General Assembly meeting.
How is settlement expansion viewed internationally?
The vast majority of the international community regards Israeli settlements in occupied territories as illegal under international law. Such expansion severely complicates, many would say makes impossible, efforts for a viable two-state solution.
Yet Netanyahu is pushing ahead.
He, along with his far-right coalition members, continues to advocate strongly for these disputed developments, thereby intensifying the conflict. Now again, looking at perspectives.
Yes.
From a left-leaning perspective, this settlement expansion is seen as a direct, deliberate undermining of peace efforts and a clear violation of international law. Critics argue it effectively makes a future Palestinian state geographically unviable by breaking up Palestinian territory.
And the right-leaning view.
From a right-leaning perspective, particularly within Israel's governing coalition, it might be framed very differently. Perhaps as a security imperative for Israel, asserting control over strategic areas, or as a commitment to Israeli sovereignty and historical or religious claims to the land. It highlights that deep ideological chasm surrounding the entire issue.
Okay. Meanwhile, shifting focus slightly, the U.S. is also flexing its technological muscle with new weaponry, which sends its own kind of message across the globe.
That's correct. The U.S. has unveiled enhanced bunker-busting bombs.
Bunker busters. Designed for what?
Primarily designed to neutralize deeply buried enemy targets. Think command centers, weapons facilities. North Korea's fortified installations are often cited as a key example.
So an upgrade to existing weapons.
Yes, this new technology aims to expand upon the existing massive ordnance penetrator, or MOP, which is already huge. The idea is to create smaller, perhaps, but more precise variants that use advanced guidance systems.
So more targeted destruction.
The stated goal is to ensure deterrence, the ability to hold any target at risk, without necessarily causing the massive collateral damage associated with older, less precise large bombs.
Is the U.S. alone in this?
No, South Korea is also showcasing its own advancements in this particular arms race, notably its Himu-5 missile, which has similar deep penetration capabilities.
So it's a regional arms dynamic, too.
Absolutely. These weapons are a clear and unequivocal message to adversaries like North Korea. They represent a critical step in U.S. defense strategy, especially given North Korea's continued missile development and nuclear ambitions.
But there are ethical questions, too, right?
Of course. While enhancing deterrence capabilities, the development and potential deployment of such incredibly destructive munitions inevitably open up dialogue about their ethical implications, the risks of escalation, and the potential devastating outcomes if they were ever actually used.
It really is a whirlwind of headlines, from allies becoming complicated to adversaries building new weapons. And the U.S. seems to be navigating some incredibly tricky waters across the globe. Those new bunker busters, they sound like something straight out of a movie, but with very real and potentially devastating real-world implications.
If we try to connect all these threads, these recent actions by both the U.S. and Israel truly illustrate the incredibly complex, often contradictory nature of geopolitics in regions like the Middle East and East Asia.
How so?
The U.S. condemning Israel at the UN, as we discussed, is a significant diplomatic signal. It reflects not only external pressures, but also likely internal debates within the Trump administration itself regarding regional stability, balancing alliances, and its evolving role as a potential mediator.
Right.
This whole scenario raises that important, overarching question for U.S. foreign policy. Can the U.S. effectively balance its traditional, often ironclad, support for key allies like Israel with growing international calls for accountability, especially when those allies pursue policies that are widely viewed internationally as escalatory or in violation of international norms?
It's a very delicate and constantly shifting balance. No easy answers there.
None at all.
Okay, speaking of rising global powers and shifting balances, let's turn our attention to China. Specifically, its growing military presence and some interesting internal dynamics as well.
Right. China's latest aircraft carrier, the Fujian, has recently sailed through the Taiwan Strait.
The Fujian, that's their newest and most advanced one, right?
It is. Their third carrier, and the first to boast a state-of-the-art electromagnetic catapult system, similar to what the U.S. Navy uses. This passage was part of its ongoing sea trials and training exercises.
Sailing through the Taiwan Strait is always a statement, though.
Always politically charged, yes. Simultaneously, China's National People's Congress, their legislature, has expelled 4 high-ranking generals from their legislative roles.
Expelled generals, why?
It's seen as indicative of a broadening anti-corruption initiative within the military, led by President Xi Jinping.
So on one hand, China is projecting impressive new military power outwards with its carrier, and on the other, they're consolidating political control internally within the military through this anti-corruption drive. It's like a dual strategy.
Exactly. That's a very good way to put it. The Fujian, which was first unveiled back in 2022, is designed with significantly advanced takeoff capabilities for its aircraft, a major leap for their naval aviation.
How is China framing the Taiwan Strait passage?
The Chinese Navy states it was a routine operation, part of normal training, not aimed at any particular target. However, its presence, especially if it passes near the disputed Senkaku Islands, which Japan controls, but China claims naturally stirs geopolitical implications and concern among its neighbors, like Japan and Taiwan, and of course the wider international community.
And the expulsion of the generals, what's the goal there?
It's widely interpreted as part of President Xi Jinping's aggressive anti-graft push. This campaign is designed not just to combat actual corruption, but also to fortify the military's ideological loyalty to the Communist Party and to Xi himself. It's about ensuring political control as they enhance China's status as a formidable military superpower.
So power projection and internal consolidation happening at the same time.
This dual approach is truly fascinating, strategically. The external projection of advanced military power with the Fujian, combined with the internal consolidation and purification, if you will, through the anti-corruption drive within the People's Liberation Army. This clearly reflects China's strategic ambitions. Modernize its military capabilities, assert them globally, while simultaneously ensuring absolute loyalty to the Communist Party leadership.
Is there talk about when the Fujian will be officially operational?
There's already speculation surrounding its official commissioning date. Many analysts anticipate it might align with significant historical dates for China, adding another layer of strategic and symbolic significance to its entry into service.
In the anti-corruption drive, is it just these 4 generals?
No, it follows the removal of other high-profile figures within the military and defense establishment in recent times, raising broader questions about potential shifts, purges, and the overall stability and direction within its leadership structure. It keeps everyone on their toes.
Right. Okay. Let's bring the focus closer to home again. In the United States, we're unfortunately grappling with a series of high-profile, deeply troubling incidents involving radicalization, political violence, and broader public safety concerns.
These events are indeed having a profound impact, dominating headlines and shaping difficult discussions about governance, security, and the very social fabric of the nation.
Let's start with the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Yes, the conservative activist Charlie Kirk was fatally shot on a campus in Utah. Authorities are describing it as a targeted assassination.
A targeted assassination of a political figure on a campus. That's shocking.
It is. It prompted a $100,000 reward for information leading to the suspect. President Trump later acknowledged that the suspect was, in fact, in custody.
This must have had huge political repercussions.
Immense. Domestically, it ignited significant tension and widespread media coverage, raising urgent concerns about threats to political figures and the escalation of politically motivated violence in an increasingly polarized climate. Kirk was a prominent and often provocative figure within President Trump's MAGA movement, highlighting the deep intertwining of personal loyalty and political strategy for current American politics.
And internationally, I heard something about the European Parliament.
Yes, that was quite striking. The European Parliament notably declined to hold a minute of silence in Kirk's memory.
Wow. Why?
It starkly highlights the deep political divisions surrounding his legacy and his brand of politics, not just domestically, but also abroad. He was a controversial figure internationally as well.
The European Parliament declining a moment of silence for a U.S. political figure who was assassinated. That really underscores the deep political divides at play, doesn't it? It's a vivid illustration of global polarization regarding American politics.
It is. And the incident immediately became a flashpoint for commentary. For example, The controversial Russian philosopher Alexander Dugin called it a symbol of dangerous division and potential civil conflict in the U.S., even drawing inflammatory parallels between the Democratic Party and Ukraine in his commentary.
Okay, that's quite a take.
The gravity of the situation domestically was further emphasized when Kirk's body was transported home to Arizona aboard Air Force Two, a gesture usually reserved for high-ranking government officials.
So a major event with far-reaching implications.
Absolutely. Now, moving to another tragic but very different incident. The story of Irina Zarutska.
Right, the young Ukrainian woman in North Carolina.
Yes, Irina Zarutska, just 23 years old, was tragically stabbed to death on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina. The accused, DeCarlos Brown Jr., reportedly has a lengthy criminal record.
And there's a heartbreaking family element to this too, isn't there?
There is. Compounding the tragedy, Irina's father cannot attend her funeral.
Why not?
Because of Ukraine's wartime mobilization laws, which currently prohibit most men aged 18 to 60 from leaving the country during the ongoing conflict with Russia.
Oh, that's just devastating. He can't even bury his daughter.
It's incredibly sad. This incident highlights the devastating personal toll of war on families, reaching far beyond the battlefield. And it's further exacerbated by Ukraine's controversial recruitment practices, which critics have labeled as an infringement on human rights in some cases.
Has President Trump commented on this case?
Yes, President Trump has publicly called for the death penalty for the accused, Mr. Brown. His direct involvement draws further attention to the case and folds it into broader ongoing discussions about crime, justice, and public safety in the United States.
And these aren't isolated incidents, sadly. There have been others recently, too.
Yes, while we're focusing on those two particularly poignant examples, it's important to note they occur amidst broader concerns. For instance, in Colorado, a 16-year-old student, Desmond Hawley, opened fire at a suburban Denver high school.
Another school shooting.
Yes, he injured two classmates before tragically turning the weapon on himself. Officials reported Hawley had been radicalized online by an extremist network. Reports mentioned he continuously fired and reloaded, showing a terrifying level of intent.
And the Naval Academy incident?
Separately, the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland was placed on lockdown after reports surfaced of a dismissed midshipman opening fire inside a dormitory. Thankfully, no injuries were reported in that case.
Still incredibly frightening.
Absolutely. These broader incidents just underscore those ongoing, urgent concerns about students' safety, youth violence, the rising and insidious influence of extremist ideologies, especially online, and the desperate need for effective preventative measures and robust mental health resources.
From political assassinations that spark international debate and controversy to the individual heartbreak of a family torn apart by violent crime and the laws of war, and then this deeply worrying trend of school shootings and radicalization, it truly feels like a troubling moment for public safety and the social fabric in the U.S. That story of Irina Zarutska, where her father can't even attend her funeral because of the war, it's just heartbreakingly complex.
It truly is. These events, taken together, collectively raise profoundly important questions. Questions about the intersection of domestic radicalization, the accessibility of weapons, gun violence, and how geopolitical conflicts happening thousands of miles away can ripple outwards to impact individual lives so tragically and profoundly.
Yeah.
The Charlie Kirk assassination, in particular, has become a significant flashpoint in the ongoing, often bitter, debate about political polarization and the escalating, sometimes dehumanizing, rhetoric in American society.
How is it seen from different sides?
From a right-leaning perspective, it unequivocally highlights perceived threats against conservative voices, a sense of being under siege, and a breakdown of civil discourse into violence. From a left-leaning perspective, concerns are often raised, not celebrating the violence, of course, but questioning the kind of inflammatory rhetoric that some argue can contribute to creating an environment where such violence becomes more likely.
But both sides are concerned about safety.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Both perspectives, however vehemently they might disagree on the causes or the specific figure involved, share a common and urgent concern for public safety, the rule of law, and the overall stability of democratic institutions. These events are undeniably shaping critical discussions about governance, security, and the broader societal ramifications of violence, particularly how political figures, young people, and ordinary citizens are affected in these increasingly volatile times.
Okay, looking beyond the U.S. now, we're also seeing democracy under significant pressure in other parts of the world. Specifically, let's look at Brazil and Nepal, each facing their own unique challenges.
That's correct. In Brazil, former President Jair Bolsonaro has been sentenced to 27 years in prison
27 years. For what, specifically?
for his role in a coup plot that aimed to overthrow the government after his electoral defeat back in 2022.
Right, the storming of government buildings.
Exactly. He plans to appeal the conviction, arguing the ruling is politically motivated, which is a common defense in such cases.
Is this causing ripples internationally?
It is. For instance, U.S. Senator Marco Rubio has already expressed intentions to respond to the conviction, though it's unclear exactly what that means yet.
27 years. That's an extraordinarily serious sentence for a former head of state. It's fascinating how it's resonating internationally. Even with U.S. politicians weighing in, it really does set a precedent, doesn't it?
It is indeed a historic moment for Brazil, and perhaps globally, one that strongly reinforces the principle of accountability, even for the most powerful, for actions that undermine democratic institutions. Bolsonaro's actions, including rhetoric seen as inciting violence, culminated in that January 2023 attack on Brazil's Congress, Supreme Court, and presidential palace.
Which was widely condemned.
Widely condemned internationally, yes. The political atmosphere in Brazil remains incredibly tense. His supporters are expressing outrage, seeing it as political persecution. His opposition, meanwhile, views the conviction as a triumph for the rule of law and the resilience of Brazilian democracy.
What does this tell us more broadly?
What this situation perhaps reveals is part of a global trend. Democracies grappling with challenges from populist movements and leaders who often push against established norms and institutions. Bolsonaro's sentencing sends a powerful message domestically and internationally about the limits of political power and the unwavering importance of the rule of law.
Okay, and in Nepal, we're seeing a different kind of political shift, but one also driven by public demand for accountability. Is that right?
Yes, in Nepal, former Chief Justice Sushila Karki is set to be sworn in as the interim prime minister.
A former Chief Justice becoming PM.
Yes, following the resignation of the previous prime minister, KP Oli, amidst widespread anti-corruption protests that had gripped the country.
So public pressure forced the change.
Exactly. Karki's appointment is seen as a crucial step, hopefully, for addressing long-standing issues of political instability and deep-seated corruption. It's a direct response to public dissent demanding greater transparency and accountability from their government.
What are the hopes for her leadership?
Her leadership will be very closely watched, both domestically and internationally, for potential reforms and the establishment of a more trustworthy system of governance. Both Bolsonaro's sentencing of Brazil and Nepal's political transition, though different, reflect a society's demand for governmental integrity and accountability. They illustrate that ongoing struggle between democratic institutions and the forces, whether populist like Bolsonaro or systemic corruption as in Nepal, that seek to destabilize them. It raises important questions about governance and the rule of law in their respective regions and, indeed, globally.
Okay. To wrap up our global affairs section, let's turn our attention to an initiative that maybe offers a glimmer of hope amidst all this tension and conflict. Something called South-South cooperation.
Ah, yes, South-South cooperation. It's a United Nations-supported initiative, actually established way back in 1974.
1974, so it's been around a while.
It has. It involves collaborative efforts among developing countries, often referred to collectively as the Global South.
And what's the goal?
These nations, which interestingly comprise a staggering 80% of the world's total population, work together to achieve their development goals. They do this through sharing knowledge, skills, resources, and successful solutions amongst themselves.
So basically, countries that have maybe faced similar development challenges and perhaps found creative solutions are now directly helping each other climb the ladder instead of always relying on aid or expertise from the traditional global north.
That's exactly the idea. It fosters self-reliance and horizontal learning, leveraging shared experiences.
That's a powerful concept, especially with all the current talk about geopolitical divides, north versus south. It seems to promote self-sufficiency.
It absolutely does. Dima Khatib, who is the director of the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, or UNOSC, emphasizes that these nations possess not just common challenges, but also a real wealth of innovative, often context-specific solutions that can be shared very effectively among peers.
Is it working? Are there examples?
Studies consistently show that this type of cooperation can significantly enhance economic landscapes, create jobs, and build local capacity in participating countries. We've seen notable successes cited in places like Ethiopia, Paraguay, and Rwanda, where such initiatives have led to tangible improvements in areas like agriculture, health, or infrastructure.
How about other regions?
In the Middle East, for example, nations are collaborating actively. Morocco is sharing its expertise on building large-scale solar farms. Saudi Arabia is sharing advancements in water purification techniques, crucial in arid regions. And the United Arab Emirates, through its Masdar City research initiatives, is a hub for sharing knowledge on renewable energy, digital transformation, and climate resilience strategies.
Are there specific organizations facilitating this?
Yes, organizations like the Islamic Development Bank actively facilitate this knowledge exchange. And there are multilateral initiatives, too, like the India-UN Development Partnership Fund or the India-Brazil-South Africa Fund, IBSA, which powerfully demonstrate collective action and solidarity among major developing economies.
Does this help with issues like brain drain?
That's a key benefit. This approach directly counters the detrimental brain drain effect, where skilled professionals often leave developing nations due to conflict or lack of economic opportunity. By enhancing regional connectivity and leveraging local expertise, it encourages talent to stay and contribute regionally.
So it's a tool for equity.
It really stands as a powerful tool for fostering equity and solidarity. It aims for a fairer, more balanced world, particularly as developing nations confront really pressing issues like geopolitical tensions spilling over, high debt burdens, a widening digital divide, all often happening amidst diminishing traditional aid flows from developed nations.
Does it replace North-South cooperation, though?
That's an important question the international community is grappling with. Can this model truly bridge the existing divides between the global North and South, or does it risk inadvertently creating new economic or political blocs? While South-South cooperation is absolutely vital for self-reliance and regional empowerment, the UN itself continues to emphasize the need for continued global cooperation. North-South, South-South, triangular cooperation, all forms are needed to achieve truly sustainable development goals for everyone. It's about partnership, not necessarily replacement. #TechCheck04. Economic currents and consumer shifts.
Okay, let's shift our focus now to the economic currents, the financial tides, and the consumer shifts that are shaping our world. Starting over in the United Kingdom, the latest economic news there isn't looking particularly rosy, is it?
No, it's unfortunately not. The UK economy experienced zero growth in the latest reporting month, July. That followed a rather modest 0.4% growth in June.
Zero growth, flatlining.
Flatlining, yes. This stagnation is raising significant concerns about the overall economic outlook for the UK. And notably, the data included the largest decline in manufacturing output seen in an entire year.
Wow, manufacturing taking a big hit.
A significant hit.
Zero growth. That's not exactly the headline you want to see when your country is trying to rebound from, well, various challenges like inflation, post-Brexit adjustments. It sounds like a lot of economic plates are spinning, but none of them are really moving forward.
That's a very apt metaphor. If we connect this to the broader economic picture, the manufacturing sector is often considered a critical leading indicator of overall economic health.
Right. It shows if people are making and buying physical things.
Exactly. Its significant contraction suggests there might be deeper underlying vulnerabilities. These could stem from a confluence of factors, maybe persistent post-COVID recovery challenges, ongoing geopolitical tensions affecting supply chains and energy prices, maybe broader European economic headwinds.
What are the specific factors they're blaming?
Well, factors cited contributing to this zero growth include those continued stubborn inflation pressures, some unresolved supply chain issues, a noticeable reduction in consumer confidence. People are worried about the future.
So they're spending less.
Spending less, yes. And just general global economic instability feeding into the uncertainty. This data carries critical implications for financial markets, of course, and it will undoubtedly influence future monetary policy decisions by the Bank of England.
What are economists worried about?
They're openly expressing fears that this stagnation could lead to further economic challenges down the line. Things like potential increases in unemployment rates if businesses stop hiring or start laying off, and further decreases in crucial consumer spending, which could push the country closer to an actual recession.
So what can be done?
Well, this raises that important question for policymakers. What targeted measures will the government implement now to try and stimulate growth and avoid a slide into recession, all while having to carefully balance those ongoing inflation concerns? You stimulate too much, inflation might get worse. You don't do enough, you get recession.
A difficult balancing act.
Very difficult. The situation is particularly poignant because the country was actively hoping to stabilize its economy. Policymakers may now need to consider more robust and strategic measures to stimulate growth and prevent that potential recessionary spiral.
Okay, let's hop across the globe. China's luxury market is also apparently rethinking its strategy. And this has significant implications for major European brands, right?
It certainly does. The luxury goods market, particularly in Europe, which relies heavily on tourist spending, is facing considerable challenges specifically because Chinese consumers are significantly reducing their spending abroad.
Why the cutback?
It's happening amidst China's own economic slowdown, which is impacting disposable income, but also due to a notable shift in consumer preferences among Chinese shoppers, especially younger ones. They're leaning more towards domestic brands now.
Ah, so nationalism in shopping, too.
A degree of economic nationalism, yes, but also changing tastes. This decline in purchasing power, particularly for high-end European goods, is directly impacting major global luxury brands. Think Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Gucci.
So even the seemingly untouchable luxury brands aren't immune to these massive economic and cultural shifts. Experiences over material goods and a rising sense of nationalism sounds like a complete overhaul is needed for their marketing and brand strategy teams. They can't just rely on the logo anymore.
You've hit on the core of the issue. What's truly fascinating here is how these cultural shifts and economic realities are compelling these global luxury giants to adapt their entire business model, at least regarding the Chinese market, which is a huge engine of growth for them.
So what are the shifts?
Younger Chinese consumers, a crucial demographic, are becoming much more discerning. As you said, they are increasingly favoring unique experiences, travel, dining, wellness, over acquiring purely material goods. And critically, they are demonstrating that rising sense of national pride in their purchasing habits, preferring brands that resonate culturally or are high-quality, homegrown Chinese brands.
So how are the European brands responding?
They're having to revamp their entire strategies. They're emphasizing more immersive shopping experiences in their stores, more personalized services, and developing culturally resonant marketing campaigns that speak directly to the changing tastes and values of the Chinese market. They need to connect on a deeper level now.
So is the boom over?
This represents a potential new normal for the luxury sector's relationship with Chinese consumers. Moderate, perhaps more sustainable growth is likely expected now, replacing that explosive, often double-digit growth rates previously witnessed. It raises an important question for the entire luxury industry globally. How will these profound shifts in the crucial Chinese market influence the global luxury market more broadly? And what does it tell us about the evolving spending priorities and cultural identity of such a powerful and trend-setting consumer base? This may indeed lead to a new normal where brands must adapt to these nuanced demands rather than simply relying on established brand prestige.
Okay, turning to international trade relations now. The U.S. and India, they seem to be on the cusp of resolving some key issues that could further solidify their partnership.
Indeed. U.S. President Donald Trump's nominee for ambassador to India, Sergio Gore, has expressed clear optimism regarding the future of U.S.-India relations.
What does he say specifically?
He anticipated a resolution on some lingering tariff disputes in the upcoming weeks. Gore has explicitly pledged to work to draw India closer to the United States
Oh.
by emphasizing the need for India to open its markets more broadly to American goods and, critically, also urging India to reduce its significant imports of Russian oil.
Ah, the Russian oil angle.
Yeah.
That's a big geopolitical lever. It sounds like a clear strategic move to pull India firmly into the U.S. sphere of influence and maybe create some distance from India's other geopolitical ties, like with Russia.
It absolutely is framed that way. Gore's comments also highlighted what he sees as fundamental differences between India and China, aiming to diminish the likelihood of deepening ties between those two Asian giants.
Positioning India against China.
This rhetoric clearly positions India as a key strategic ally for the U.S. in the broader context of countering China's growing influence in the Indo-Pacific region. The anticipated tariff deal is viewed as a critical first step in enhancing mutual trade interests and paving the way for further economic and strategic collaboration.
So what's the bigger picture here?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this represents a deliberate strategic alignment effort by the Trump administration. It aims to foster stability in global markets, particularly through stronger alliances and reinforce partnerships in Asia, largely viewed as a counterweight to China.
But India has its own interests, right?
Absolutely. This whole scenario raises that important question about India's incredibly complex balancing act. How will it navigate its historical non-aligned foreign policy traditions, its significant historical defense ties with Russia, its growing and complex economic relationship with China, and its increasingly vital strategic partnership with the United States?
It's a real diplomatic and economic dance for India.
A very complex dance, yes. India seeks to maximize its own national interests while engaging pragmatically with multiple global powers. But the U.S. administration's commitment to forging a more robust economic and strategic partnership with India is clearly evident in these moves.
Okay, from national trade policies, let's zoom into corporate maneuvering. The media industry might be in for yet another shakeup. There are whispers of a major acquisition.
That's the report, yes. Paramount Skydance is reportedly preparing a bid for Warner Bros. Discovery.
Wow, another huge potential merger. Who's backing Paramount Skydance?
The bid is reportedly backed by billionaire investor Larry Ellison. This potential acquisition, if it moves forward, could spark a significant bidding war within the media industry, with potentially far-reaching implications for streaming, content, and competition.
Right. Meanwhile, what's happening in the broader stock market? Is it reacting?
The broader stock market remains largely unchanged, kind of treading water after a recent rally. Investors seem to be holding back, awaiting critical announcements from the Federal Reserve regarding interest rates.
Another giant media merger. It feels like everyone is trying to get bigger, consolidate their content libraries, dominate streaming. It's constant consolidation these days.
It is a major trend.
And the stock market sounds like it's just holding its breath, collectively waiting for the Fed to make its move on interest rates. What happens next?
Well, what's fascinating here is that clear interplay between specific corporate strategy, like this potential media deal, and the broader macroeconomic policy environment. The potential acquisition highlights those ongoing intense competitive pressures within the media industry, the drive for more content, bigger subscriber bases, greater market share.
Survival of the biggest.
It sometimes seems that way. The ramifications of such a merger could influence strategic directions across the entire sector, significantly shifting the dynamics of media ownership and content creation for years to come.
And the stock market's pause.
On the stock market side, major indexes are indeed showing muted performance. It reflects a general sense of caution among investors, even though weekly gains have been recorded recently. A cut in interest rates by the Fed is widely anticipated, perhaps even expected by the market now.
What else are investors watching?
Upcoming events like a crucial inflation survey, which will give clues about price pressures, and the upcoming Gemini initial public offering, or IPO, are expected to significantly influence market sentiment in the near term. These are two distinct but interconnected sides of the same economic coin. One driven by industry consolidation and competitive strategy, the other by overarching monetary policy and investor expectations about inflation and growth. These developments have significant implications for market trends, investor strategies, and the competitive landscape of key industries, from entertainment to finance.
Okay. And speaking of shifting economic landscapes and maybe challenging the status quo, Russia and China are collaborating on something that could fundamentally challenge the traditional global financial system. Is that right?
They are working on it, yes. Russia and China are actively collaborating to establish a new securities depository.
A securities depository. What does that mean practically?
This initiative is explicitly aimed at creating a payment and settlement infrastructure for financial transactions that is less reliant on traditional Western systems, like SWIFT or Western clearinghouses.
Why no?
This move, articulated quite clearly by Russian Finance Minister Anton Siluanov, is a direct response to the Western sanctions imposed after the conflict in Ukraine. Those sanctions froze approximately 5.7 trillion rubles. That's equivalent to about $66.8 billion of Russian assets held in European clearinghouses like Euroclear and Clearstream.
Right. That must have been a huge blow, having billions frozen. So they're basically building their own financial playground away from the West to avoid that happening again?
That is essentially the goal. It's a monumental statement and a clear strategic shift towards creating alternative financial plumbing.
How would it work?
The functions of this new depository might potentially be undertaken by a prospective Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or SDO Development Bank. The SCO includes Russia, China, India, Pakistan, and Central Asian states. This bank will be designed to facilitate transactions for both Russian and foreign investors within this bloc without needing to route payments or settlements through Western financial institutions.
Sounds ambitious. Are there challenges?
Oh, absolutely. This ambitious effort is tinged with significant challenges. These include the inherent risk of potential secondary sanctions or asset seizures by other nations if they interact with this system. There's also the difficulty of providing competitive returns on ruble-denominated assets within a potentially more isolated financial system. Investor confidence is key.
Are the Russians trying to get their frozen money back?
Yes. Separately, Russian investors are already pursuing legal recourse. A lawsuit has been filed in Moscow against Belgian authorities because Euroclear is based in Belgium, attempting to retrieve those blocked assets held in Europe.
So what's the bigger geopolitical impact of this Russia-China initiative?
This whole endeavor raises a really important question about the long-term future of the global financial system and the enduring role, or perhaps the slowly diminishing role, of the U.S. dollar as the world's primary reserve currency.
De-dollarization.
Exactly. It's part of that broader de-dollarization narrative. The strategic effort by Russia and China to build an alternative financial infrastructure driven by geopolitical tensions and the impact of Western sanctions is truly fascinating from a systemic perspective. If this effort is even partially successful over the long term, it could fundamentally reshape international trade patterns and investment flows. It could lead towards a more multipolar economic system, less dominated by the West. Ultimately, this initiative reflects that broader geopolitical shift aimed at mitigating the impact of Western financial leverage and creating a more diversified global financial architecture.
Okay, finally in our economic section, a very human story. One about labor challenges in international relations, specifically involving South Korean workers here in the U.S.
Yes, a difficult situation. More than 300 South Korean workers were recently detained during an immigration enforcement raid at a Hyundai manufacturing plant in Georgia, USA.
300 workers detained at a major company like Hyundai.
Yes. The workers have since returned to South Korea, but the incident generated significant media attention and protests, both in the U.S. and South Korea.
This is a really tough story. I mean, being detained, sent home, and now presumably worried about your future employability, all while working at a major international company like Hyundai. It really puts a very human face on these complex immigration enforcement debates, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The incident sparked significant concern among the affected workers, naturally, their families back home, and the broader business community, particularly Hyundai Motor Company itself.
What are the concerns?
It immediately raised critical questions about labor rights, the treatment of immigrant workers, and the predictability of the legal environment for foreign companies operating in the United States.
How did South Korea react?
Both the president of South Korea and Hyundai's leadership voiced serious worries regarding the incident's implications for international relations between the two allied countries, and also the operational dynamics and investment climate for major foreign businesses in the U.S.
And the workers themselves.
The returning workers expressed deep anxiety, understandably, about their future employability back in Korea, and the wider repercussions of their unexpected and frankly traumatic experience being detained and deported.
Have labor unions gotten involved?
Yes, labor unions quickly responded, calling for accountability from the U.S. government, specifically the Trump administration, and an apology. They often term the raid a violation of human rights and labor standards.
What's the key takeaway here?
What's particularly insightful, I think, is the complex intersection of immigration policies, fundamental labor rights, and international business relations. This incident starkly highlights the profound vulnerabilities often faced by migrant workers globally. It also underscores the delicate balance that governments must maintain, fostering cooperative international relationships and attracting foreign investment, while simultaneously ensuring worker rights and safety within their own borders.
It raises legal questions, too.
Definitely. This situation raises an important question about the legal frameworks governing foreign workers, the enforcement of immigration laws, and the potential for significant diplomatic and economic repercussions between close allies like the U.S. and South Korea. This event is undoubtedly influencing public opinion and potentially policy decisions around immigration reform and labor migration, emphasizing the urgent need for a balanced, predictable, and humane approach that respects both national sovereignty and individual dignity. #5 for the Vester. Our planet's health and hidden dangers.
All right, let's turn our attention now to our planet's health and also some hidden dangers that impact our modern world, starting with something incredibly powerful coming from our very own sun.
Yes, a groundbreaking new study has revealed something quite startling about solar flares.
Those huge eruptions on the sun's surface.
Exactly. It turns out they can reach temperatures as high as 108 million degrees Fahrenheit.
Wait, 108 million? What was the old estimate?
Prior models suggested a maximum of around 18 million degrees Fahrenheit.
So they're like 6 times hotter than we thought.
Approximately 6 times hotter, yes.
Yeah.
A significant upward revision.
108 million degrees Fahrenheit. My oven barely gets to 500. That's just an insane, unimaginable amount of heat.
And if these flares are that much more powerful, it sounds pretty scary for all our sensitive technology down here on Earth. Satellites, power grids.
Slight chuckle. It
Yeah.
truly is an incredible amount of heat, and you're absolutely right. It has very tangible implications for us. This revelation is prompting scientists to urgently update their existing solar models.
To refine their predictions about solar activity and its potential effects on what we call space weather.
Hmm.
Because as you said, solar flares have the very real potential to disrupt satellite communications.
Which we rely on for everything, GPS, TV.
Everything. They can also impact power grids on the ground, potentially causing widespread outages if a major flare hits Earth just right. And they can interfere with navigation systems, affecting both aviation and shipping.
So understanding how hot they are is crucial for predicting the impact.
Exactly. This new data underscores the critical and urgent necessity for advancements in space weather forecasting. We need to be able to better predict these events to safeguard Earth's increasingly interconnected and technology-dependent infrastructure. It's not just an abstract astrophysics problem. It's directly about protecting our modern way of life, our ability to communicate, travel, navigate, and power our homes and industries. The findings truly emphasize the critical need to improve our understanding and our preparedness for potential disruptions from major solar activity.
Okay. From the fiery sun to a struggle for water down here on Earth, let's go to Chile, where we find a really stark reminder of the human and environmental costs that can be hidden behind some of our favorite consumer products. In this case, wine.
This is a deeply concerning situation unfolding in north-central Chile. The Daiguita people, an indigenous community native to that region, are facing severe water scarcity.
Why? Is it just drought?
It's due to a prolonged, devastating megadrought, which is certainly exacerbated by climate change. But that's combined with the impact of modern agricultural practices in the region, specifically the overwhelming dominance of wine grape and export fruit monoculture.
Monoculture meaning just growing one thing over vast areas.
Exactly. Rows and rows of vineyards and orchards, often replacing more diverse traditional agriculture.
Wow. The story behind a seemingly simple bottle of wine just got a lot more complicated and much more sobering. It's a stark reminder that what we consume often has very real human and environmental costs far away, costs we rarely even consider when we pick it off the shelf.
It absolutely does, and it's a poignant example of how global consumption patterns can directly impact local communities and ecosystems. Climate change is a significant factor in the drought, yes, but it's critically compounded by historical legislative actions in Chile, water laws that have largely favored large-scale industrial agriculture, and mining over the traditional water rights of indigenous communities.
So policy decisions made things worse.
These policies have exacerbated the crisis, leading directly to the Daiguita community losing access to vital water resources, water that is essential for their traditional farming practices, their livelihoods, their culture.
And the wine industry's role.
Wine production, which is a significant and economically valuable contributor to Chile's national economy and exports, requires extensive water usage, particularly in this arid region. This dramatically intensifies the competition for already scarce supplies, often pitting large agribusiness against small communities.
Are specific companies involved?
Reports mention that corporate interests, particularly from powerful Chilean agribusiness tycoons like the influential Luxic family, are often seen as prioritizing profit margins from exports over the fundamental water needs of local indigenous communities.
Are there other impacts besides just lack of water?
Yes. The Aguita leader Alexis Escobar Munoz has highlighted direct and detrimental health effects that they believe stem from the heavy pesticide use associated with these intensive monoculture farming practices. He's noted a distressing rise in certain health issues, particularly among local children, which they link to agricultural chemical runoff.
So water scarcity and potential health problems.
Exactly. This entire situation raises a critical ethical question, doesn't it, about the hidden costs embedded in global consumption patterns and our modern agricultural practices. This direct link we see here between climate change, historical policy decisions favoring industry, and the desperate struggle of indigenous communities for fundamental resources like clean water is truly fascinating analytically, but also deeply troubling morally.
It's not just a local Chilean issue then.
No, this isn't just a local issue. It's really a microcosm of global challenges. Challenges surrounding sustainable development, fundamental water rights, environmental justice, and corporate responsibility in global supply chains. The flourishing international wine industry, enjoyed by consumers worldwide, comes intertwined with these profound ethical questions regarding the origins and the true environmental and social costs associated with those products. It emphasizes the cultural significance and the often overlooked struggles of indigenous peoples fighting to protect their ancestral lands and resources.
Okay, staying within the Americas, but looking at a different kind of land use and environmental debate. Back in the U.S., Congress is apparently preparing to make some potentially big changes to how vast areas of public lands are managed.
Indeed. There are moves in Congress to use a tool called the Congressional Review Act, or CRA.
The CRA, what is that?
It's a law that allows Congress to overturn recently finalized federal agency regulations with a simple majority vote and with limited debate.
Okay, so a fast-track way to undo regulations.
Exactly. And the plan is to use it to overturn 3 significant public land management plans. These plans, recently finalized by federal agencies, collectively manage over 166 million acres of public land.
166 million acres. Where are these lands?
In Montana, Alaska, and North Dakota, it's an absolutely enormous area, larger than many individual countries.
And what are these lands used for?
They're incredibly diverse and crucial for a whole range of uses, often competing uses. Things like oil and gas leasing, potential renewable energy development like wind and solar farms, livestock grazing, mining, and critically conservation efforts for wildlife and natural habitats.
Okay, changing how 166 million acres, a truly massive expanse with all those competing interests, are managed, potentially with just a single legislative act, the CRA. That sounds like a pretty aggressive move, especially considering all the different, often conflicting interests at play on these lands.
It is seen as aggressive by many, and it's a move that carries significant and potentially long-lasting risks, according to critics. Those critics include legal experts, conservation groups, and sometimes tribal governments. They're warning that using the CRA this way could fundamentally reshape existing, carefully balanced policies.
Turning land management into what?
Effectively turning complex land management decisions into a highly politicized battleground. They fear decisions would be driven by short-term political considerations or lobbying pressure, rather than comprehensive, long-term ecological science and economic implications.
What's the risk of using the CRA specifically?
The CRA is a powerful, blunt tool. It allows Congress to overturn these recently enacted federal regulations without needing detailed justification or going through the normal legislative committee process. This risks dismantling years of work that went into crafting these land management plans.
Plans that involve public input.
Exactly. These plans typically involve extensive public engagement periods, consultations with stakeholders, rigorous scientific assessments, and detailed environmental impact studies. The CRA bypasses much of that.
Is there a risk it prevents future rules too?
Yes, there are concerns over the ambiguity of the CRA's substantially similar clause. This clause potentially prevents the agency whose rule was overturned from issuing a new rule that is substantially similar in the future. This could unfortunately hinder federal agencies from crafting any new rules in that area for fear of political backlash or legal challenges, creating regulatory uncertainty.
So what are the different viewpoints on this?
Well, what's particularly insightful here is seeing that dynamic tension, that constant push and pull between resource extraction, economic development, and environmental conservation. It's a debate that is perennial in the United States, especially regarding public lands in the West.
How does the right see it?
From a right-leaning perspective, particularly those advocating for less federal control, some might strongly argue for using the CRA to remove what they see as burdensome regulations. They see it as a way to promote economic activity, enhance domestic energy independence through increased oil and gas leasing, reduce bureaucratic hurdles for industries like logging and grazing, and assert state or local control over federal lands.
And the left-leaning view?
From a left-leaning perspective, and from conservation groups and often tribal nations, these moves are seen as a direct threat to critical habitats, areas essential for species like caribou and salmon, for example. They see it as undermining decades of conservation efforts, tribal stewardship traditions, and treaty rights. There are also fears that creating this kind of regulatory instability could hamper crucial clean energy projects, like wind and solar farms on public lands, which are seen as essential for reducing reliance on fossil fuels and mitigating climate change.
So it boils down to fundamental disagreements about land use priorities.
Absolutely. This entire debate raises that important fundamental question for all of us.
Yeah.
How do we, as a society, effectively balance immediate economic needs and energy demands with the necessity of long-term ecological sustainability? And what is the true impact of these sweeping federal decisions on indigenous communities whose culture, heritage, and livelihoods are often deeply intertwined with these specific public lands? No easy answers.
Definitely not. Okay, finally in this section, let's look at some potentially more positive developments, some fascinating advancements in health, from groundbreaking medical technology to proactive public health responses.
All right, Let's start with a truly innovative development in medicine. Modern bone adhesives, often colloquially called bone glues.
Bone glue, seriously.
Seriously. These are emerging as a potentially less invasive and significantly more effective alternative to traditional methods for treating bone fractures. Things like metal plates, screws, pins.
Like hardware.
Exactly. These new adhesives are specifically designed polymers that can bond directly to bone tissue, providing immediate and robust stabilization for the fracture.
Bone glue. That sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. A really elegant solution compared to drilling holes and putting in screws. It's amazing what material science is doing for healing.
Slight chuckle. It truly is remarkable. These biocompatible adhesives, meaning the body doesn't reject them, offer several compelling advantages over traditional hardware.
Like what?
They can significantly reduce recovery time for patients. They might minimize complications often associated with metallic hardware, like infection or irritation. And potentially, they could eliminate the need for secondary surgeries to remove the hardware later on, especially if the adhesives are designed to be biodegradable and safely dissolve over time as the bone heals.
Wow. Biodegradable bone glue.
The technology is advancing rapidly. A compelling 2023 study, published in the journal Advanced Science, detailed a new type of high-strength, biocompatible, and mechanically reinforced bone adhesive, showcasing the advanced capabilities being developed.
What are the broader benefits?
Beyond just faster and easier patient recovery, these innovations are expected to potentially reduce overall healthcare costs associated with fracture treatment and revision surgeries. And importantly, they could significantly improve patient mental health outcomes by reducing the stress, pain, and discomfort often associated with prolonged recovery periods and bulky hardware.
Okay, that's really promising. Now, on the public health front, the state of Virginia in the U.S. is taking proactive action regarding COVID-19. Cases are rising again.
Yes, it seems cases have been ticking up in various places. In response to a recent surge in COVID-19 cases, the Commonwealth of Virginia has announced several measures aimed at improving public access to coronavirus vaccines.
What are they doing?
The Virginia Department of Health has issued an order specifically designed to streamline the vaccination process. This comes amidst sometimes shifting federal guidelines and ongoing concerns or confusion in some areas over booster eligibility criteria.
So making it easier to get the latest shot.
Essentially, yes. This move is a proactive public health response. It's designed to ensure that residents in Virginia can receive vaccinations promptly and effectively, countering potential bureaucratic complications, like needing a doctor's prescription to get a vaccine, which has apparently been seen as a barrier in other states, such as South Carolina, according to reports.
So it's interesting seeing these two sides, cutting-edge tech and basic public health access.
It is. What's truly insightful here is this dual focus within the health sector on both driving cutting-edge innovation and ensuring responsive, accessible public health delivery. The advancements in bone adhesives represent a potentially significant leap forward in orthopedic care, with the real potential to revolutionize fracture treatment, making it safer, more efficient, and far more patient-friendly. Simultaneously, the proactive measures being taken in Virginia highlight the ongoing dynamic challenge of managing public health crises like COVID-19, even years after the pandemic began. Policy must continue to adapt quickly to evolving conditions, new variants, changing public attitudes, and practical needs like vaccine access to effectively safeguard community health.
So bone glue isn't on the market just yet.
While bone adhesives show immense promise, they are still largely in development or early clinical trial stages. Regulatory approvals from bodies like the FDA and extensive clinical trials demonstrating safety and efficacy are, of course, essential hurdles before they can see widespread adoption in hospitals.
And the Virginia initiative.
Virginia's initiative, on the other hand, is happening now and underscores the continuing significance of widespread COVID-19 vaccinations as a primary tool in safeguarding community health and, crucially, preventing severe illness, hospitalizations, and deaths, especially among vulnerable populations. It's a reminder the virus hasn't entirely gone away. #6. Sports, culture, and human stories.
Okay, let's shift gears now, maybe lighten the mood slightly in parts, and dive into some of the incredible human stories unfolding in the worlds of sports and culture. From dramatic cricket pitches to intense UFC octagon action, we've got some serious highlights to cover.
All right, starting with cricket. Bangladesh secured a commanding 7-wicket victory over Hong Kong in the ongoing Asia Cup.
A big win for Bangladesh.
A very convincing win, yes. Captain Liton Das scored an impressive 59 runs. And significantly, this victory marked Bangladesh's first ever 2020 International, or T20I, win against Hong Kong. So a bit of history made there and a real morale booster for the team and its fans.
Nice. And any other big cricket news?
Well, the anticipation is building, as always, for the India versus Pakistan T20 Asia Cup 2025 clash.
Ah, the big one. That rivalry is legendary.
Absolutely legendary. It's one of the biggest fixtures in global sport. Fans are already revisiting classic matches from past Asia Cups like 2010, 2012, 2014 matches that really showcase the intense passion, the drama, and the sheer unpredictability of this contest. It grips both nations entirely.
Yeah, it's more than just a game for millions. Okay, from the cricket pitch to the octagon, we have Alice Pereira set to make history in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, or UFC.
That's right. Alice Pereira, who is just 19 years old and hails from Brazil, is set to become the youngest woman ever to fight in the UFC.
19. Wow. When's her debut?
She's competing at the upcoming UFC Noche event, going up against Montserrat Rendon.
Oh.
It's a monumental debut for such a young athlete on such a huge stage.
Incredible pressure. Wow, what a lineup of stories already. Youngest UFC fighter ever, a historic cricket win for Bangladesh. And then we have Wayne Rooney, the football legend, reflecting on his career, including celebrating with the opposition after they crushed his team 6-1.
Chuckle. Yes, that story resurfaced recently.
That's some serious sportsmanship. Or maybe just a lot of beer after the fact. I mean, 6-1.
Chuckle. Perhaps a bit of both, who knows? But it was certainly a moment that transcended typical rivalry. Wayne Rooney, the Manchester United legend, indeed reflected on his career, including that surprising, widely photographed moment where he was seen seemingly celebrating with Manchester City players after that humiliating 6-1 derby loss to them years ago.
What did people make of that at the time?
It sparked a lot of discussion then and now about competition, respect, maybe camaraderie beyond fierce club rivalries, or perhaps just the strange ways athletes cope with crushing defeats.
Any other sports highlights catching your eye?
A few others, yeah. Great Britain's Davis Cup team is facing a critical must-win tennis match away in Poland. The media is likening it to a classic FA Cup giant-killing scenario, given the stakes and the underdog feel.
Okay, high-stakes tennis.
In rugby, Christine Belial made a stunning return to the sport after time away, starting for Scotland in a crucial World Cup quarterfinal against their rivals England. A huge comeback story.
Fantastic. And American football.
Yes, from the NFL, the Green Bay Packers secured a solid 27-18 victory over the Washington Commanders in their recent Thursday night football game. Standout performances reported from quarterback Jordan Love, defensive star Micah Parsons, and tight end Tucker Kraft for the Packers.
So, lots happening across the sporting world.
Absolutely. Litton Das' performance not only secured that historic win for Bangladesh, but also undoubtedly boosted national morale. The India-Pakistan cricket rivalry, as we said, is renowned globally for its sheer intensity and passion, with matches often leaving indelible marks on fans and sporting history. Alice Pereira's debut in the UFC highlights that rising trend of incredibly young athletes breaking barriers in high-stakes professional sports, showcasing the immense mental fortitude and physical dedication required for such elite competition at that age.
Yeah.
Rooney's perhaps ambiguous act of sportsmanship transcended traditional rivalry, sparking broader discussions about the nature of competition, respect among athletes, maybe even psychological coping mechanisms. And those stories from the Davis Cup in rugby really emphasize the immense challenges, the unpredictability, the importance of teamwork, and that powerful national pride inherent in high-stakes international sports.
So what's the common thread?
What all these diverse stories perhaps reveal is how sports, at every level, serve as such a powerful reflection of human achievement, resilience, failure, and cultural identity. From individual triumphs like Alice Pereira's upcoming debut to intense national rivalries like India-Pakistan cricket, these events captivate audiences, they inspire, they disappoint. They often transcend the game itself to touch on broader themes of community, perseverance, national feeling, and sheer human determination.
Okay, moving beyond the arena now. Personal stories and public figures often capture our attention, reminding us of that very human element that threads through global events, even amidst all the politics and conflict.
Indeed. For example, during a surprise visit to Ukraine recently, Prince Harry expressed his deep commitment to aiding military personnel who have been injured in the ongoing conflict with Russia.
He met with veterans there.
Yes, he met with veterans and medical professionals involved in their care and rehabilitation.
The human element here is so strong. Prince Harry focusing on the injured, especially given his work with the Invictus Games he founded, it sends such a powerful message of support and recognition for those who have sacrificed so much in that conflict.
It absolutely does. His visit strongly emphasizes the profound human impact of the war, going beyond the battlefield statistics. It highlights the critical importance of long-term rehabilitation, mental health support, and ensuring the well-being of military personnel and their families. It's clearly an extension of his ongoing passionate commitment to the Invictus Games movement, which uses the power of adaptive sports to aid the recovery and recognition of wounded, injured, and sick service members and veterans globally.
Okay. Then there's the former tennis champion, Boris Becker. He just launched his new book, Inside. And he seems to have a pretty unique take on his own financial troubles and his recent time in prison.
He certainly does. In his new book, Becker details his time in prison in the UK and reflects on the controversial financial challenges that led him there. Interestingly, he openly attributes some of these difficulties, or at least the context for them, to the immense and often overwhelming fame he achieved by winning Wimbledon at the remarkably young age of 17.
Blaming winning Wimbledon, that's a choice.
It's his narrative. The book offers a unique insight into what he portrays as a dual existence: the dizzying highs of early, massive fame and its subsequent difficult fallout. He reflects on his famous rivalries on court, the complexities of managing sudden, enormous wealth at a young age, and he expresses a hope for a fresh start now.
Does he take responsibility?
He often views himself, or presents himself, more as a victim of circumstance, bad advice, or the pressures of fame, rather than taking full moral responsibility for the specific actions like concealing assets during bankruptcy that ultimately led to his legal troubles and conviction. It's a fascinating and certainly often debated perspective on personal accountability versus external pressures.
Yeah, interesting framing. And on a more somber note, sadly, we've also had the passing of a beloved public figure recently.
Yes, Jay Wynn, who is a beloved former BBC weather presenter in the UK, passed away recently at the age of 56.
Oh, I remember him. He was very reassuring.
He was widely remembered across the UK for his dedication, his warm, calm personality, and his remarkable ability to make complex meteorological data seem accessible, understandable, and engaging for a very wide audience over many years.
He made the weather interesting.
He did. His legacy highlights the significant impact that dedicated professionals can have on the public consciousness just by doing their job well, making complex information relatable and understandable day after day. What's compelling, maybe, looking at these three figures together, is how these public figures navigate their own personal struggles, triumphs, and platforms, and continue to influence society in very different ways. Prince Harry's direct engagement amplifies crucial humanitarian issues stemming from conflict. Becker's narrative offers a poignant, if controversial, look at the double-edged sword of early fame and its long-term psychological and financial impacts. And Wynn's passing reminds us of the quiet, consistent, and profound impact individuals can have in public service, even in something as seemingly routine as weather forecasting.
Different kinds of impact.
Exactly. These stories, in their unique ways, connect with universal themes. Overcoming adversity, the price and pressures of fame, the importance of humanitarian work, and the lasting impact of dedicated public service.
Okay, finally today, let's explore some everyday dangers and maybe some delightful human connections. From wild wildlife encounters to mysteries solved within families.
All right. Let's start with a natural danger from the Sunshine State, Florida in the U.S. Florida is home to an estimated 1.3 million alligators.
1.3 million? Wow, that's a lot of gators.
It is indeed. And a detailed examination has highlighted the top 5 alligator-infested rivers in the state, aiming to raise crucial awareness for both residents and the millions of tourists who visit Florida each year about where these reptiles are most commonly found.
So basically, be careful near the water in Florida. Good to know.
Absolutely. The article provides key insights into their most common habitats, slow-moving rivers, swamps, marshes, and offers practical safety tips. Things like, don't feed alligators, keep your distance, keep pets on a leash away from water edges. It emphasizes respecting alligator territories and understanding their natural behavior to avoid potentially dangerous encounters. They generally avoid humans, but can be dangerous if threatened or fed.
Okay. Moving to a different kind of danger, one involving technology. A new smartphone scam has emerged in Osaka, Japan, apparently specifically targeting elderly residents.
Yes, unfortunately. Scammers are reportedly posing as tech support personnel, maybe from a well-known company, or offering enticing special deals or refunds.
How do they trick people?
They aim to trick elderly individuals into revealing sensitive personal information, bank details, passwords, or even directly transferring money under false pretenses.
Oh, that's truly alarming, targeting such a vulnerable population. It feels like these scams are becoming more sophisticated and sadly more pervasive globally, preying on people's trust or fear.
They are, unfortunately. Local authorities in Osaka are actively alerting the public and establishing robust outreach programs specifically designed to educate elderly residents about these tactics and how to protect themselves. It highlights a broader global increase in scams specifically designed to exploit vulnerable populations, often relying on sophisticated social engineering tactics and exploiting unfamiliarity with technology.
Right. Okay, shifting tone again. A more domestic incident, but one that resonated emotionally with many online. A homeowner expressed outrage after a delivery crew inadvertently destroyed something precious on their property.
Yes, destroyed a cherished, apparently decades-old feature of their property. The exact nature wasn't specified, maybe an old tree, a stone wall, garden feature, something unique and long-standing.
Oh, that's just heartbreaking. Imagine losing something so sentimental, something maybe planted by grandparents with decades of memories attached just due to a careless delivery mistake. It's a reminder of how much emotional value we place on our personal spaces and history.
It is indeed a poignant reminder of the emotional impact unique property features can have, especially when they carry such personal or family history. The incident sparked widespread online discussions about accountability for delivery services and subcontractors and the need for more care and respect regarding personal property.
Okay, but on a much, much lighter note to end, a mystery solved. Michelle and John Wiley finally solved the 4-year mystery of a tall man in a blue suit who apparently crashed their wedding.
Chuckle.
Yeah.
Yes, this story went viral for a bit.
A wedding crasher. Who was he?
It turns out he was simply a distant relative who hadn't been formally invited but decided to show up anyway, enjoyed the party, and nobody realized until they looked back at photos years later and wondered who this mystery guest was.
Chuckle. Okay, so from gator safety warnings to phone scams targeting grandmas, and then to a wedding crasher, mystery solved years later by a distant relative showing up unannounced. You really can't make this stuff up. It just shows you the wild, unpredictable, and sometimes truly heartwarming spectrum of human and animal interaction in our everyday lives.
Slight chuckle. These stories, while seemingly incredibly diverse, maybe collectively underscore the importance of vigilance and awareness in our daily lives, but also finding humor in connection. Whether it's respecting nature's boundaries, like with the alligators, protecting ourselves and our loved ones against sophisticated digital fraud, or even safeguarding personal property and memories, they remind us of the varied challenges and surprising connections that shape our immediate environments. The Osaka scam, in particular, highlights the evolving adaptive nature of cybercrime and the critical ongoing need for digital literacy education, especially among vulnerable populations, as these threats are constantly changing. But the wedding crasher anecdote, in delightful contrast, beautifully illustrates how unplanned, unexpected occurrences can sometimes add unique, cherished layers to our celebrations and memories. And it shows the surprising power of family connections, or maybe just social media, to solve long-standing, quirky mysteries. These seemingly disparate stories serve as crucial reminders and resources for public safety, for consumer protection, and even for finding heartwarming human connection, illustrating the incredibly diverse and often unexpected aspects of everyday life.
So where does that leave us? What does this all mean? We've journeyed today from the incredible, almost unbelievable dance of black holes validating Einstein and Hawking's century-old theories,
Amazing stuff.
to the very real, tangible impact of hotter-than-expected solar flares potentially disrupting our Earth's technology. We've navigated the intricate, high-stakes diplomatic ballet between the U.S., Belarus, Russia, and Europe,
Complex relations there.
and confronted the pressing, painful issues of radicalization and violence impacting communities tragically, from a campus in Utah to a train in North Carolina, linked even to the war in Ukraine.
Heavy topics.
We've explored shifting economic landscapes, from stagnation concerns in the UK to changing luxury tastes in China, and we've highlighted the powerful grassroots efforts of South-South cooperation aiming to build a more equitable world from within the developing world itself.
A hopeful note there.
And we've touched on everything from potentially revolutionary medical adhesives, bone glue,
Yeah.
to the very human stories of sportsmanship, or maybe lack thereof, the complexities and pitfalls of fame, and yes, even a mystery wedding crasher finally identified after 4 years.
It's been an absolute whirlwind of information, covering so much ground. But perhaps the overarching takeaway, the thing that ties it all together, is the profound value of staying informed. Not just about isolated incidents reported in headlines,
Right, not just consuming news snippets.
but about trying to understand the deep, often invisible interconnectedness of our global systems, how finance affects diplomacy, how technology impacts ethics, how climate change impacts communities, how individual stories reflect larger societal trends. Critical thinking is more essential than ever in this age of information overload,
Asking why.
pushing us to question not just what is happening, but why it truly matters, how it connects to other things, and who it ultimately impacts, often in ways we might not immediately expect.
It's true. All these stories we've covered today, no matter how grand or cosmic or how small and personal they seem, they're all inextricably linked threads in the same vast, complex global tapestry. They serve as a constant reminder that our world is relentlessly in motion. It's a place full of both daunting challenges and absolutely incredible innovations. A place where the human spirit consistently finds ways to adapt, to explore, to connect, to strive, and sometimes, sadly, to conflict.
Indeed. And maybe it calls for a collective awareness from all of us of how these threads interweave and how our own actions, our choices, individual and collective, contribute to the pattern of that tapestry, whether we realize it or not.
So, as we leave you today, here's something to maybe mull over. We live in an age where digital technology, like AI, like the internet, can both connect us globally for unprecedented understanding and cooperation, things South-South collaboration facilitated online, and yet that same technology can be weaponized, used to amplify divisions, spread disinformation, radicalize individuals, and increase vulnerabilities, as we've also discussed. So the question is, how will we, collectively, choose to shape this emerging digital intelligence era? Will it lead us towards greater shared prosperity, understanding, and peace? Or will it inadvertently deepen our existing fault lines and conflicts? And perhaps more personally, what role do you play in that fundamental choice every day in how you consume, how you process, and ultimately how you share information with the world around you?
That's it for today's Artificially Informed.
Nope. Thanks for spending your time with us.
Yeah.
Stay sharp, stay curious. See you next time.